Hello, my name is Nicholas Myers and I'm the Project Manager for Group 1, and today my team and I will be demonstrating the solution for the TCAPS system, the Team Contribution and Budget Management Database. So to begin, I'll introduce you to my team. Today we have myself, Nicholas Myers, Tony Darcy, Jacindu Grange, Nisaj Patel and Anthony Kipper. Before discussing the agenda today, we would like to let you know how our team has operated to create this project. We began working on the solution on the 3rd of April 2020 for the duration of 13 weeks, excluding the Easter break. We have adopted a pseudo-agile-like environment involving but not limited to frequent stand-up meetings, generally on a Tuesday or Sunday evening around 7 p.m, revising each other's work and conducting continuous iterations to ensure the best product is available for you today. All written information such as user documentation, business rules, traceability matrix, and use cases will be available on the 8th of June 2020 for your reading pleasure. The goal of this this solution's goal is to provide a database management system to facilitate the process of teamwork assessment throughout a course. This product will enable students to log all activities associated within a project and various other forms such as peer assessments, and also allow academics to review students' performances and offer more accurate, fair marking based on students' individual contributions throughout that project. The agenda for today. This presentation will be as follows. First, Nisaj will be providing you an in-depth look into our infrastructure, why we selected this for the solution, and then Jacindu will be providing an overview of our database through an ERD and a summary on our tables within our database. Tony then will begin a deep dive into how our constraints on our tables work and also provide you information about the robust and long shelf life of our solution and how we approached our architecture with that in thought. Then Anthony will provide further understanding on how procedures and functions on our database work, with myself, Nicholas, providing further information on that immediately afterward. Then we'll return back to Nisaj to provide an overview of our front end, the languages used, how the security works, such as the single identification login, and other matters related to the user interface. After gaining an understanding of how our front end was designed, we'll then be going on to a demonstration today with Jacindu, highlighting the key features alongside Tony Darcy. This will include all roles of the TCAPS system, being admin, unit convener, supervisor, and student, those being the 4 key roles, and we'll also show you information on how we can scale that up in future if there was further requirements required. At the end of this, we'll have Anthony providing a wrap-up section, providing further information on what we would like to do if we had additional time, and what kind of pitfalls we faced along the way, and a summary of the presentation as it all. With that, I'll hand you over to Nisaj, who will provide an overview of the project's infrastructure. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nisaj Patel, and today I will give a general overview on the infrastructure of our TCABS project. So we have used two-tier architecture for our project, which is a client-server application. Two-tier architecture means where the application runs on the user's machine and the data is stored in a central location on a network. One of the main reasons for choosing this application was that it runs smooth when it has less users. There are two subtypes of this architecture. That is, first, fat client thin server, and second, thin client fat server. Among these two, we have approached on our project with the thin client fat server approach, because this approach would be very appropriate when developing applications which involve very little for a user interface and mostly just storing information, basically meaning no real need to have constant interaction such as a video game. Talking about the backend development of our project, our team has decided to use Microsoft SQL Server for our backend development. Microsoft SQL is a popular relational database management system developed by Microsoft. Microsoft SQL Server has more efficient access control and permission management tools and offers better performance in data collection. Moreover, security features are also better in Microsoft SQL. SQL in general is very common programming language. Mainly it has access to every database. Also, SQL Server is very user-friendly compared to other servers like Oracle, and debugging takes very less time than the Oracle server. Now, for the front-end development, we have used ASP.NET and VB.NET. Syntax of ASP.NET is very similar to HTML's. So, anyone with minimal knowledge of coding can use it. It also reduces the amount of code required for building large and complex applications, which can increase overall development speed and reduce development cost. VB.NET is totally object oriented. Also, VB.NET and ASP.NET provides managed code execution that runs under the common language runtime, results which results in robust, stable, and secure applications. It allows programmers to write ASP.NET and VB.NET code using any supported .NET language. From now on, I will pass it over to Thosindu to explain ERDs.
Hello, my name is Tosindu Gamage and welcome to TCABS ERE. As you can see, we have integrated 17 tables together to create this system a success. Our group members followed a specific set of instructions in the beginning and created several pre-versions of this ERD. So this is the final edition of our entity relationship diagram. In the previous versions, we had so many weak entities. In the end, we managed to break them up. We stored all our employees, admin, conveners, students, supervisors data in the user table. We implemented all the common attributes like first name, middle name, surname, date of birth with suitable data types. Also, username and email address kept unique. We then assigned specific roles for our users. This is where we specify whether the user is a student, convener, admin, or a supervisor. And next, we were able to set the permissions to each of the 4 roles. Next thing we looked after was registering units for our system. We created a table to store data of the units separately, a semester table to track down the semester details such as start date, end date, a unit offering table which connects the units, semesters, conveners. When it comes to the unit offering table, it contains 3 foreign keys, namely INT unit of study, INT semesters, INT unit convener. All these are implemented with no action referential integrity, which won't allow any parental table to get deleted if they contain data from child tables. Unit enrollment table stores 2 foreign keys such that it connects the student and the unit offering. Unit offering supervisor table breaks the weak entity between the users and unit offering. This holds the foreign keys, INT unit offering and INT user. We can see a unit offering supervisor may be entitled to one or many teams. Projects are the next most important thing in TCABS. Projects are created with teams. Teams can get enrolled in a project. To break down the weak entity between the enrollment and projects, project enrollment table came up with foreign keys, INT team, INT projects, INT student. To store data of project meetings table came up. The attendance of project meetings are stored in a separate table, project meeting attendance. Finally, a table for task submission is used to store the data of student submissions for relevant projects of the relevant unit offering. Then I'll pass off to Tony to explain the tables in depth.
Thanks, Asindu. My name is Tony Darcy, and I'll be further describing the tables and how user access control is managed. Where possible, we have tried to implement our constraints in the database as either a table constraint or part of the data validation for a stored procedure. This helps if a new front end needs to be created, as stored procedures can be reused. It also helps ensure that if someone less knowledgeable has access to the database, they are less likely to be able to modify data in a way that violates a business rule. We decided to use a single users table. This allows users with multiple roles to be able to sign in with the one login. Each user is given a unique username, which they will use to log in to TCABS. The username must contain only alphanumeric characters to help comply with the business rule that students' username should be 7 to 10 alphanumeric characters and staff's username should contain alpha characters only and be generated using their name. There are 3 fields to store a person's name in. The person's first given name is stored in the str first name field. Any other given names are stored in the str middle name field, and their surname is stored in the str surname field. Spaces and special characters are allowed in these fields, as a person may have more than 2 given names and or more than one surname, and thus they will need to be separated by a space. For the user role, we have opted to only allow 2 values, admin or other. This is so that one user can contain more than one role. For example, a convener for one unit may be the student or a supervisor in another unit, which will be determined by the unit enrollment table, the unit offering table, or the unit offering supervisors table. A date of birth is required as per the business rules, and although it's not compulsory to provide an email address, every email address in the table must be unique, since there is no reason for a user to need more than a single account. When submitting a task, it records the following information in the task submission table. The unit offering the task is submitted for, the user ID of the student that submitted the task. If the submission is for a project, the project ID is stored. If applicable, the student's role for the task, the time taken to complete a task, a link to an external file stored in a location such as Google Drive or OneDrive, the date of submission, the grade is stored as null, and the task is recorded as not edited and not accepted by the project manager when the task is first created. There are 3 different tables and a stored procedure that determine whether a user has access to a piece of functionality. There is a roles table which contains the role name, such as admin, convener, student, or supervisor. There is a permissions table which contains the permission name. There is a role permissions table which links the role and the permissions table. This allows the roles and the permissions to be flexible and also allows several different roles to have access to the same permission without needing to make any major changes to the database. We then have a stored procedure called check if user is authorized, which is called by almost every other procedure to check whether a user has access to a particular piece of functionality. This procedure goes through the following tables. The users table to check if the user is an administrator, the unit offering table to check if the user is a convener, the unit enrollment table to check if the user is a student, and the unit offering supervisors table to check if the user is a unit offering supervisor. For each of these, it checks if the user ID is in the table for the selected unit offering, and then if the role has access to that piece of functionality they are trying to access.
Thanks, Tony. We're now going to move on and talk about some of the key high-level administrator tasks. These tasks include registering and deleting a user, registering and deleting a unit, and registering and deleting a unit offering. So moving on to the administrator controls, the following procedure allows the administrator to register a new user. So it still references the check if user is authorized procedure to make sure that the administrator is authorized to add a new user, and also just double checks their user variable logged in. If the user is authorized and is an administrator, the administrator simply enters in the username, password, first name, middle name, surname, user role, date of birth, and email address of the new user into the database. And once that is successfully added, there is a little note popping up to the user saying that's added successfully. And if that user is not an admin, then they will receive that you're not authorized to add a new user. There always must be at least one admin inside the database at all times so that they can continue to create administrator tasks. So the following procedure allows the administrator to delete a user, and how it works is it first checks if the user trying to delete another user is an authorized user, so an administrator, and then moves on to check that the user trying to be deleted is not enrolled in a unit, is not a supervisor, and has not ever taught in any of the units, because each of those business rules will prevent a user from being deleted from a database. If all of those declarations have been passed, we then move on to check if the user is an administrator, because if they are and they're the only administrator, they will not be allowed to be deleted from the database, but if not, they can. And once that declaration has finished, we then move on to check if that user is either of those, and if not, they're allowed to be deleted from the database. So the following procedure allows the administrator to register a new unit of study. So again, using the check if authorized procedure to make sure the user being passed through is in fact an admin and authorized. And then once that has been approved, the administrator can then enter the unit code and unit name for the new unit, which will be added successfully into the database if they are authorized. Otherwise, they will be passed through the message, you're not authorized to add a new unit. So the following procedure allows the administrator to delete a unit from a database. So again, referencing the check if user is authorized procedure to ensure the admin is authorized, and then selects the number of unit offerings within the database, because a unit offering cannot be deleted once it has passed the start date. If that is false, and in fact it hasn't passed the start date, the administrator can then delete the unit of study from the database. Otherwise, the unit cannot be deleted due to it passing the start date. And if the user is not an authorized administrator, then they will not be able to delete the unit. So the following procedure allows the administrator to register a unit offering. So again, it uses a check if authorized procedure to check the administrator is a valid authorized user in the database, and then goes to check that there is a valid unit of study, a unit semester, and a unit convener in the database in order to add a new unit offering to. If that is successful, then the administrator can add a new unit offering. If there is not a unit convener or a semester code or a valid unit, then the administrator will not be allowed to add a new unit offering. And if the administrator is not an authorized user, they will not be allowed to add a new unit offering. So the following procedure allows a user to delete a unit offering from the database, and it first checks to see if the user is an authorized admin to do so. There is an inner join from the semester table to the unit offering table to grab a few key columns, which are then going to be checked in the next section of the procedure, which checks to see if there's any unit offering supervisors in that particular unit, whether there's any units in that particular unit offering, and also if there's any tasks that have been submitted already in that unit offering. If any of these statements are true, the unit will not be allowed to be deleted from the database. If not, the administrator can successfully delete the unit.
Thanks for that, Anthony. To expand further on what Anthony just said on the back end of our database, we'll be focusing on the roles throughout the database, such as a unit convener, a supervisor, and a student. To ensure users can undertake more than one role, our constraints around roles is generally on the procedure itself. This is how we manage our multi-role functionality. In order of hierarchy, unit convener is the one who owns the subject to a degree from a database perspective. They're the ones who create they create the teams and the projects and allocates roles throughout that project, and also assigns dates, and they also actually allocate the supervisor to a team itself. So first we'll focus on the unit convener. When the admin makes a unit offering, they assign the unit convener to the subject, so the unit convener user must be made by this point. Upon assigning that user with the unit convener attribute in a unit offering, this assigns the unique primary key to the unit offering itself, and that gives that unit convener that functionality in the front end, so they can access that functionality. For example, a unit convener has a create team function and a create project function. On the screen right now will be a snippet of the code itself to create a team and how they assign that. As you can see on this code, a unit supervisor is required to actually create a team, and that will be also shown a little bit further on the front end demonstration. And they also do require a team name as well as also the unit offering itself they're assigning to. In case they have multiple units, they're actually unit convening. Next, we'll go on to the project. Very similar to creating a team, its function has requirements, being a team has already been created, and the rest is actually added through the form itself when the unit convener is putting in that project for those students. Next will be a brief overview of the supervisor role, which can create a meeting known as a supervisor meeting and approve minutes. This is just a bit of the functionality behind it, behind the supervisor role, and we'll expand further on that throughout our front end demonstration. A supervisory meeting is a procedure which has a lot of requirements. It's generally on the very end of this whole, I guess you would call it, timeline of events if you were trying to set up one. You do require a unit offering, which requires a unit convener, which requires a team, which requires a wide range of prerequisites and so forth. While there is some forms that need to be filled out to submit a supervisor meeting, you also need to allocate a team which must be made to do so. As shown on the screen right now, to go into the values of this would take quite some time. You will see the functionality further down the track in the front end demonstration. They also have another function, a bit more functionality, which will make a bit more sense on the front end when they get to approve the meeting once it's been submitted. And that's basically to sign it off saying the meeting has been completed and who attended and so forth like that. That will expand more when we speak about the student role as well. A student, we'll do a quick student overview as well, being the student role, pseudo role itself. They can submit a task and submit the minutes. Building on what I just said before, they submit the minutes which the supervisor then can mark them off and sign off. This is the code here in front of me right now for submitting a task. Fair bit of information that needs to be actually there to be able to pass the values. We definitely need to know the project that's being submitted to. This functionality becomes accessible once a project's been allocated to you, as well as also a team, and also whether or not you're actually the project manager as well. That doesn't actually accept the project entirely until the project manager itself accepts that. That's more shown on the front end again as well. There's a bit more functionality behind that, but on the screen it will be quite time consuming to go over every single attribute here to be able to go over that. And this was the meetings I was speaking about earlier for the supervisor role. When they submit this, they just need to update the project meetings table with the actual string of the minutes in which they've captured, and then the supervisor would use that approve function to basically finalize that meeting's capture point. You can edit these and you can resubmit them as well. Very similar to the submit task, there is that functionality which we will demonstrate hopefully throughout the front end demonstration as well. With that, I'm going to pass over to Nisaj, who's going to go a bit more further in depth from our front end and give you a preliminary view of how we approached our front end and so on. Thank you very much.
So our approach for the front end was quite simple. We choose ASP.NET and VB.NET for our front end developing languages over any other programming languages. Reason for choosing these languages was that we used Microsoft SQL Server for our backend development. ASP.NET and VB.NET belongs to the same service provider, that is Microsoft. This made it a lot easier for us while developing front end. Minimal coding was required while using these languages, as we have found templates that contain basics of what we need to create for the user interfaces. Using these languages from the same service provider made it easier, as we had to contact only one provider rather than contacting different service providers for different languages. From now on, I will pass it to Thosindu for further front-end demonstration.
Thanks, Nisarg. I'm going to demonstrate the functionality of our website. Let's log in as admin. Welcome to TCABS. This is our home page. As you can see, these are the administrative controls in our system. First, we will look into registering new employees. So let's register a new employee, Robert Tippin, as admin. So let's generate a username and password. So we added the admin. So next, let's register a student. So I'm going to register Anthony as a student. So I'm going to use a username specified by myself. And then we can see a list of users when we click list users or delete a user. So here we can delete a user given the username like this. So next I'm going to register a unit of study. So for this I'm going to give the unit code as INF20010 and the name as database systems. So when we click list units, we can see all the units available. So we can see the unit we added at the last. If we want to delete a code, we can just use the unit code here to delete it. So next, I'm going to register a unit offering. So when we go to this, we can see we have to give the semester code for this. So a semester needed to be made already. So we can go to the list semesters. So we can grab a semester, and I'm going to make a unit offering for this semester. So the unit code is INF20010. The maximum number count is 300, and the unit convener as Robert. And next, we can see the unit offerings here. So we can't delete this unit offering because this is already made with a current semester. So if we want, we can delete a semester which is ahead. So we can delete 38, not 40. So next, I'm going to enroll Anthony in a subject. So for that, I'm going to take the unit offering ID as 40, and I'm going to take the username Anthony. So the user enrolled successfully. So we can see user 39 with the unit offering 40. As Anthony enrolled as a student, we can see whether we can delete Anthony. No, we can't delete Anthony because he's already enrolled in a unit. So next, I'm going to add a supervisor to unit offering. So the unit offering ID, I'll grab 40, supervisor username as Robert. So I've created the unit offering supervisor. So we can see Robert is the current supervisor for the unit offering 40. So if we want to delete the unit offering supervisor, we can use this. And next, we can create a semester from here. And we can list or delete any semester from here. Let's try to delete our convener and the supervisor, Robert, from the system. So we are not allowed to delete Robert from the system because he's already enrolled as a supervisor and a convener in the system. And I'm going to pass this off to Tony to demonstrate the functionality for the supervisor, student, and the convener roles.
Thanks, Sindhu. I'm going to continue to demonstrate the functionality of our website. As you can see, I'm logged in as user 1 who has access to one unit. If the unit offering ID of this unit is entered up here and we click on submit, you can see that this user is both a convener and a supervisor for this unit. If you click on list or register a team, it shows the available supervisors and the current teams. And then if the form is filled out to register a team, then a new team will be created. And that's the team that I just created. There's a button here to delete a team. And if the user enters the team ID of the team they would like to delete and then clicks on submit, it will remove that team. and see how the team is no longer listed here. Here it lists the available teams and the students that are enrolled in this unit. If the form here is filled out, it will enroll the student in the team. If you click to list currently enrolled students or add a team member, it shows the available teams and the students that are enrolled in this unit. If you click on list or remove a team member, it shows all of the users that are enrolled in a team for this particular unit. It shows the team ID and their user ID. If the user enters the team enrollment ID and then clicks on submit, the team member will be removed from the unit. And as you can see, that team member is no longer listed here. The convener can also register a project. So if they click on the register a project button, it will ask for a project name, the project description, the project grade weighting. It'll ask for the team ID, and a due date. It also asks for an external file location. So if the marker has a link to an external requirements document, that document, if it's in Google Drive or OneDrive, they can enter the share link into there and it will store it in the database. And if you click on list or delete a project, it shows the projects that have been set up. And as you can see, that is the project that was just created in the form before. The project can be deleted by entering the project ID and then clicking on the submit button. A project can also be, you can also assign a project role to a team member. So currently no projects have been assigned to a role, but you can fill this form out. Project ID. Project. And as you can see, the data I entered has now been submitted to the database and it shows up here. I have now signed in as a different user with the username tdarcy. And as you can see, this user is an administrator, but they also have unit offerings listed here, which means that they are enrolled in a unit as either a supervisor, a convener, or a student. So if I enter unit offering ID 1, it shows that this person is a student for the unit. And if I click on submit an individual task, it asks for the project ID, the role for the task, how long it took to complete in minutes, and the external file location, which again is either a link to a Google Drive or a OneDrive folder. It then submits this to the database.
On behalf of the whole team, we would like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to attend this presentation. Given that the time frame was limited to 12 weeks to complete this project from start to finish, the team did not manage to complete all tasks associated with the project. The team were aiming to complete all tasks related to higher end of the platform, which included the functionality of the peer assessment. The team incurred a few bumps along the timeline, which included losing a team member in the opening weeks of the project and also having a team member attend to a personal related task for a few weeks. This meant that the team needed to readjust roles and responsibilities. The world pandemic of COVID-19 has also played a large role during the project, restricting the communication between the project team members and the client to virtual chat rooms and messages rather than face-to-face meetings and collaborative sessions. With an additional 68 weeks and a discussion for extra funding, the team will be able to complete all tasks for the project successfully. All in all, it has been a wonderful experience with you, and we again thank you for your time and patience during this project journey. We hope to hear from you again in the future.